Everyone trusted her, but trust can kill. Quiet woman, a shocking secret, and a murder hidden in plain sight. Who killed Laura Standishand? Why? Let's start. It was a Friday in early November, and Nero Wolfe was in the kind of mood that comes from having too much money in the bank and too little to occupy his magnificent brain. He was in his chair behind his desk, working through his afternoon beer and pretending to read a book about Hungarian cuisine, while actually just brooding about the fundamental inadequacy of human beings in general, and clients in particular. Was at my desk near the door, typing up correspondence and trying to figure out how long we could coast on our current bank balance before Wolfe would be forced to accept a new case. My calculations suggested 3 weeks, possibly 4, if Fritz economized it on the grocery bills, which Fritz would never do, because asking Fritz Brenner to economize on food was like asking Wolfe to economize on beer, which is to say impossible. The doorbell rang at 3:47, which I noted because Wolfe's schedule is sacred, and interruptions between 3 and 6 when he's supposed to be reading and thinking, and generally being left alone are about as welcome as a tax audit or a visit from his least favorite person, Spectre Kramer. Wolfe didn't look up. No, I haven't even looked yet. I don't care who it is. The answer's no. It might be someone with money and an interesting problem.
Money we have.
Interesting problems are invariably accompanied by tedious people. He turned a page. Tell them to go away. The doorbell rang again, longer this time, more insistent. The kind of ring that suggests the person doing the ringing has reached the end of their rope and is hanging on by their fingernails. I went to the hall and checked through the one-way glass panel in the door. Standing on our stoop was a woman in her early 40s, well-dressed in a burgundy coat and matching hat, with dark hair starting to show gray and the kind of face that suggested she'd spent most of her life smiling and most of today crying. I went back to the office. Woman, 40s, expensive clothes, recent tears, and the look of someone who's about to either faint or start screaming. Possibly both. Then she should see a doctor, not a detective. Wolfe, she looks desperate. Desperate people make poor clients. They want miracles, not solutions. He closed his book with the air of a man surrendering to fate. 2 minutes. If she cannot articulate her problem in 2 minutes, you will escort her out, and I will fire you for disturbing my peace. You can't fire me. I'm indispensable. What do you think? I opened the door. The woman practically fell through it, caught herself on the coat rack, and said in a voice that shook, "Mr. Wolfe." "I need to see Mr. Wolfe? Please, it's about my husband. He's been arrested for murder and everyone thinks he did it, but he didn't. He couldn't have. Everyone trusted him, so that was the problem." "What's your name?" "Catherine Merritt." "My husband is Dr. Philip Merritt. He said he was a psychiatrist, very successful, very respected. And now the police have arrested him for killing one of his patients, and I don't know what to do." I led her to the office. Wolfe had put away his book and was sitting with his hands interlaced over his substantial middle. It's looking like a Buddha who'd been interrupted during meditation and wasn't pleased about it. "Mrs. Merritt," I said, "this is Nero Wolfe." She sat in the red leather chair without being invited, which told me she was either too distressed to remember her manners or too desperate to care. "Mr. Wolfe, my husband didn't kill anyone. A healer, not a murderer. But the police found evidence, terrible evidence, and they've arrested him. And his lawyer says unless we can prove he's innocent, he'll be convicted. Please, I need your help." Wolfe studied her with the expression of a man examining an insect under glass. "Mrs. Merritt, before we proceed, I should inform you that my fee is $100 per day plus expenses.
What?
With a retainer of $500, I make no promises except to discover the truth. If the truth implicates your husband, I will not suppress it. Is that acceptable?" "Yes, anything. Just please help him, then tell me what happened. Begin at the beginning, proceed chronologically, and omit nothing that might be relevant." She took a shaky breath. 3 days ago Tuesday evening, one of my husband's patients was found dead in his office. Her name was Laura Standish. She was a young woman, 28, had been seeing Philip for about 6 months. Depression, anxiety, the usual things. She had a 7 o'clock appointment Tuesday evening. When Philip went to his office the next morning, he found her there, dead. She'd been strangled. "Where was your husband Tuesday evening?" "At home, with me. We had dinner at 7:30, listened to the radio until 10, went to bed." Philip never saw Laura Tuesday evening. She never showed up for her appointment tour, so we thought. She was in his office. The police think Philip lied about not seeing her. They think he saw her for the appointment. Something happened. Maybe she threatened to expose something. Maybe they had a relationship and he killed her. Did they have a relationship? No. Philip would never. He's a professional, Mr. Wolfe. He treats patients. He doesn't. He doesn't have affairs with them. The idea is absurd. Wolfe poured beer with the careful precision of a man buying himself time to think. "Mrs. Merritt, what evidence do the police have against your husband?" "Laura was found in his private office, the room where he sees patients. The door was locked from the inside. Only Philip has a key. There are no other entrances, no windows, large enough for anyone to enter or exit." And her voice broke, and they found Philip's tie around her neck. His tie, Mr. Wolfe, the one he wore to work that morning. It has his initials embroidered on it. Where was this tie supposed to be? In his office closet, where he always keeps spare clothes? But when the police searched, the tie was around Laura's neck, and the closet was missing several other items: his jacket, some papers, as if someone had gone through his things. Wolfe leaned back, and his chair creaked ominously. "Mrs. Merritt, locked room murders are exceedingly rare in reality, though common in fiction. They require either elaborate mechanical devices, which are obvious upon inspection, or they require that the locked room was never actually locked at all, which is more likely in this case. I don't know," Philip says. "The office was locked when he arrived Wednesday morning. The cleaning service confirms the door was locked when they finished Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. Laura's appointment was at 7. Somehow she got into the locked office, was murdered there, and the murderer left without unlocking the door. Or," Wolfe said quietly, "your husband killed her during her 7 o'clock appointment and lied about not seeing her that evening?" Catherine's face crumpled. "That's what everyone thinks. But Philip didn't do it. He couldn't have. He was with me all evening. I'm his alibi. And the police don't believe you. They think I'm lying to protect him. They think we're both lying. But we're not, Mr. Wolfe. I'm telling the truth. Philip was home with me Tuesday evening. He never left the apartment. He never saw Laura Standish. Somehow, someone murdered her in his locked office and made it look like he did it." Closed his eyes. "Mrs. Merritt, I will consider your case. Mr. Goodwin will investigate. He will speak with the police, examine the crime scene if possible, and interview anyone who might have relevant information. Tomorrow morning, I will decide whether to proceed. If I accept the case, I will attempt to prove your husband's innocence. If I find evidence of his guilt, I will inform you immediately and withdraw. Is that acceptable?" "Yes." "Thank you, Mr. Wolfe. Thank you." After she left, leaving behind a check for $500 and enough desperation to fill the office, I looked at Wolfe and said, "So, what do you think?" "I'm not certain which." "And the locked room." "The locked room is a diversion, Archie. Locked rooms are designed to make us focus on the mechanism rather than the motive. Someone wants us to waste time figuring out how Laura Standish was killed in a locked office. The real question is why she was killed there at all. You think? Someone framed Dr. Merritt? I think someone murdered Laura Standish and went to considerable trouble to ensure Dr. Merritt would be blamed. Whether that someone is Dr. Merritt himself, creating an elaborate alibi, while actually committing the crime, someone else entirely remains to be determined." He picked up his book. "Tomorrow, you will visit the crime scene, speak with Inspector Kramer, and determine whether this case is worth my time. And if it's not, then Mrs. Merritt can have her retainer back minus 1 day's fee. And her husband can find another detective or another lawyer, or simply resign himself to whatever justice he deserves." He opened his book. "Now leave me alone. Fritz is preparing osso buco for dinner, and I need to mentally prepare for the experience. I left him reading and thinking and generally being Nero Wolfe, which meant he was already 3 steps ahead of everyone else and wasn't going to tell me about it until he was good and ready. Saturday morning, I arrived at the offices of Dr. Philip Merritt at 9:30, which is earlier than I prefer to be anywhere except bed. But murder investigations don't wait for civilized hours. The office was in a townhouse on East 73rd Street 1. Of those elegantly converted brownstones where doctors and therapists charge obscene amounts of money to listen to rich people complain about problems that could be solved by having less money and more sense. Inspector Kramer was already there, along with 2 detectives and enough cigarette smoke to cure a side of beef. When he saw me, his expression suggested he'd just bitten into what he thought was chocolate and discovered it was soap. Goodwin. I should have known Wolfe would stick his nose into this. His nose goes where the money goes, Inspector. Mrs. Merritt hired us to prove her husband's innocence. Then she wasted her money. Philip Merritt killed Laura Standish in this office Tuesday night. We've got him dead to rights, so I've heard. Mind if I look around? Yes, I mind. This is a crime scene, not a tourist attraction. Then I'll just stand here and observe while you explain to me why you're so sure Dr. Merritt is guilty. Professional courtesy between investigators. Kramer glared at me, then sighed and gestured to the office. Fine, but don't touch anything. The office was exactly what you'd expect from a successful psychiatrist's leather couch. Mahogany desk, bookshelves full of medical texts and psychology journals, a wall of diplomas and certifications. The kind of room designed to make patients feel they're in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing and charges accordingly. Laura Standish's body was found there. Kramer pointed to the couch, strangled with this. He showed me an evidence bag containing a silk tie, dark blue with silver initials, PM Philip Merritt's tie, found around the victim's neck. When was she killed? Medical examiner puts time of death between 7 and 8 p.m. Tuesday. She had a 7 o'clock appointment with Merritt. He claims she never showed up, that he was home with his wife all evening, but the evidence says otherwise. What evidence besides the tie? The locked door. This office has 1 entrance. He gestured to the door we'd come through. No other doors, no windows large enough for a person. The cleaning service locked this door when they left at 6 p.m. Tuesday. When Merritt arrived Wednesday morning, the door was still locked. Only he has a key. What about the cleaning service? Do they have keys? They have a master key for the building, but it doesn't work on this particular lock. Merritt installed a special lock 6 months ago. Said he wanted extra security for his patient files. Only he has the key. So either the victim had a key, or Merritt let her in. Merritt let her in. Sorry for the appointment. Something went wrong. Maybe she threatened to report him for something. Maybe they were having an affair and she wanted to end it. Maybe he just snapped. He strangled her with his own tie, locked the door, went home, and pretended he'd never seen her that evening, and the wife. The wife's lying. Or she fell asleep early and didn't realize he left. Or she's been covering for him from the beginning. Kramer lit another cigarette. Goodwin, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what a guilty man looks like. Philip Merritt is guilty. Then you won't mind if I verify a few details. Verify all you want. The evidence doesn't change. I looked around the office more carefully. The desk was neat, organized, professional. The couch where Laura had died still had a slight indentation, as if someone had been lying there. On the side table was a water glass, empty, and a box of tissues. Was anything taken from the office? Hard to say. Merritt claims nothing's missing, but his jacket was found on the floor. His closet was open. Some files were disturbed. Could be the killer searching for something. Could be Merritt staging a scene to make it look like someone else was here. What about the victim? What was she like? 28. Single, worked as a freelance graphic designer. Lived alone in the village. Been seeing Merritt for 6 months for depression and anxiety. No enemies that we can find. No reason for anyone to kill her except Merritt. Why would Merritt kill her? That's what we're trying to figure out. Maybe she knew something about him. Maybe they were having an affair. Maybe she threatened his reputation somehow. Kramer blew smoke at the ceiling. But the why doesn't matter as much as the how and the when. And the how is, he strangled her during her appointment. The when is Tuesday at 7 p.m. The who is Philip Merritt. Case closed. I left Kramer smoking and went to find Dr. Merritt himself, who was out on bail and presumably at home contemplating the next 30 years of his life in prison. The Merritt apartment was on Park Avenue. It's a kind of place that screamed successful professional in a way that was both impressive and slightly desperate. Catherine Merritt answered the door and led me to the living room, where Dr. Philip Merritt was sitting on a couch, looking like a man who'd just discovered that everything he'd built could be taken away by one silk tie and a dead patient. He was in his late 40s, distinguished looking in the way that psychiatrists are supposed to be, silver at the temples, calm expression, the kind of face that says you can trust me with your deepest secrets, except now that face was pale, drawn, and showing cracks in its professional composure. Mr. Goodwin, my wife said you work for Nero Wolfe. I do, and Mr. Wolfe is considering your case. But first I need to ask you some questions. Of course, anything. I sat across from him and opened my notebook. Let's start with Tuesday evening. Walk me through it. I finished with my last patient. At 6 o'clock, Mrs. Henderson, chronic anxiety, nothing unusual about the session. Locked my office, came home around 6:30. Catherine and I had dinner at 7:30. We listened to the radio some music program. I don't remember which. We went to bed around 10. I never left the apartment. I never saw Laura Standish that evening, but she had a 7 o'clock appointment. Yes, she was scheduled for 7, but she didn't show up, or so I thought. I assumed she'd canceled or forgotten. It happens sometimes. Did she call to cancel? No, but some patients just don't show up. Usually call them the next day to follow up. Did you call her Wednesday? Yeah. Didn't get the chance? When I arrived at my office Wednesday morning and unlocked the door, I found her there, on the couch, dead. I called the police immediately, and your tie was around her neck. My tie, quote, yes, my tie. The one I'd worn that morning and left in the closet. Someone took it. Someone used it to kill her. And everyone thinks it was me. Was it? No, Mr. Goodwin. I'm a psychiatrist. I help people. I don't kill them. Laura was a troubled young woman who was making progress in therapy. I had no reason to harm her. Did you have a relationship with her, beyond the professional one? Absolutely not. That would be a violation of ethics, of trust, of everything I believe in as a physician. Laura was my patient, nothing more. Then why would someone kill her in your office and frame you for it? I don't know, unless he stopped. Unless what? Unless it wasn't about me, unless it was about her. Unless someone wanted Laura dead and decided to kill her in a way that would put me in prison for it. Why would someone want Laura dead? I don't know. She was a private person, didn't talk much about her personal life during sessions. We focused on her depression, her anxiety, her feelings of inadequacy. But she never mentioned enemies or threats, or anything that suggested someone wanted to harm her. What about her family? Her parents are dead. She had a brother, but they weren't close. She mentioned him maybe twice in 6 months. Friends? Romantic relationships? But nothing serious. She said she had trouble forming close connections, that she always felt like she was on the outside looking in. Catherine spoke up from where she'd been sitting silently. Mr. Goodwin, my husband is telling you the truth. He was home with me. Tuesday evening? He never left. He couldn't have killed Laura, Mrs. Merritt. The police think you're lying to protect him. I'm not lying. Philip was home all evening. I was with him the entire time. Did he leave the room at any point? Go to the bathroom? Make a phone call? Step outside? He went to the bathroom once around 9, for maybe 5 minutes. But that's not enough time to go to his office, kill someone, and come back. No, I agreed. It's not. I stood up to leave. Philip Merritt looked at me with desperate hope in his eyes. Mr. Goodwin, do you believe me? I believe you believe. You're telling the truth. Dr. Merritt, whether that's the same as actually telling the truth is what Mr. Wolfe will determine. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe was in his chair, having just come down from his morning session with the orchids. I gave him my full report while he worked through his first bottle of beer and looked like a man contemplating the strange ways humans find to destroy each other. So, I concluded, Kramer's convinced Merritt did it. The evidence is strong, locked room. Victim killed with his tie. Only he had a key. The wife says he was home, but wives lie for husbands. Yo. The question is, are they both lying, or is someone else responsible? Wolfe was silent for a long moment, his eyes closed, his massive head tilted back. Then he said, Archie, tell me about the locked room again, specifically about the lock, special lock, installed 6 months ago. Only Merritt has a key. Cleaning service locked it at 6 p.m. Tuesday. Still locked Wednesday morning when Merritt arrived, and the cleaning service used a master key to lock it? No, they don't have access to that particular lock. They locked the outer door to the building, but Merritt's office has its own special lock that only he can open. I see. Wolfe opened his eyes. And when did Dr. Merritt install this special lock? 6 months ago? He said he wanted extra security. For patient files. 6 months ago. And Laura Standish had been his patient for how long? 6 months. Interesting coincidence. He poured more beer. Ashy. I want you to find out everything you can about Laura Standish. Who she was, what she did, who knew her, who might have wanted her dead. I also want you to verify the wife's alibi, speak with neighbors, doormen, anyone who might confirm whether Dr. Merritt was actually home Tuesday evening. You think the wife is lying? I think everyone lies, Archie. The question is whether they're lying about important things, or merely embarrassing ones. He leaned back. There's something wrong with this case. Something that doesn't fit? Dr. Merritt is either an innocent man being framed with remarkable precision, or a guilty man who's created an elaborate alibi that depends on his wife's complicity. Either way, someone is lying. We just need to determine who. Sunday morning, I spent tracking down Laura Standish's life, which turned out to be smaller and sadder than anyone deserved. She'd lived alone in a studio apartment in the village, worked as a freelance graphic designer from home, and according to her neighbors, kept to herself so completely that most of them couldn't remember the last time they'd seen her. Quiet girl, said Mrs. Kowalski, who lived across the hall. Always said hello, always polite, but never stopped to chat. No, and just went in her apartment and stayed there. Sometimes I'd hear her typewriter at all hours. Clack, 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 but that was it. Did she have visitors? Not that I saw. It'll not here all the time, you understand. Could have had visitors when I was out. What about her brother? Did he ever visit? Brother didn't know she had one. Like I said, she kept to herself. I found the brother Robert Standish at a bar in Brooklyn, nursing a beer at 11 in the morning and looking like 8. A man who'd been nursing beers at 11 in the morning for most of his adult life. He was in his mid-30s, with the kind of face that had probably been handsome once, but was now settling into resigned disappointment. Laura? He said when I asked. Yeah? My sister. The cops already talked to me. I told them I don't know nothing about her murder. When was the last time you saw her? A couple months ago. B3. We weren't close. She had her life. I had mine. Why weren't you close? Because Laura thought she was better than me. Went to college, got herself a career, lived in Manhattan. While I'm here in Brooklyn, fixing cars and drinking beer. She looked down on me, you know? Made me feel like I was some kind of failure. Did she say that? Didn't have to? I could see it in her eyes. That looked like poor Robert wasting his life. He took a long drink. But I didn't kill her, if that's what you're thinking. Yeah, we didn't get along, yeah. She made me feel small. I wouldn't hurt her. She was still my sister. Do you know if she had any enemies? Anyone who'd want her dead? Laura didn't have enemies. She didn't have anybody, just that shrink. She was seeing Dr. Merritt. She talked about him like he was some kind of savior. Dr. Merritt says this. Dr. Merritt thinks that. Like he had all the answers. He laughed bitterly. Guess he didn't have all the answers after all. Did Laura ever mention anything about Dr. Merritt that seemed unusual? Inappropriate? Nah, she worshipped the guy. Thought he was helping her. Thought he understood her. Robert stared into his beer. Maybe he did. Maybe he understood her better than I did. Maybe that's why she's dead and I'm still here, feeling like crap about it. I left him with his beer and his guilt and went back to Manhattan to check Catherine Merritt's alibi. The doorman at the Merritt's building was a man named Sullivan, who'd been working the evening shift Tuesday and remembered seeing Dr. Merritt. Come home around 6:30. Saw him come in, said good evening, he went upstairs. That was it. Did you see him leave at any point during the evening? Nope. I was at my post until midnight. If Dr. Merritt left the building, I'd have seen him. He have used the service entrance? Could have, I guess. I would he. Service entrance is for deliveries, trash, that kind of thing. Residents don't use it, but it's possible. Sullivan frowned. Yeah, it's possible, but I never saw him come back down. I checked the service entrance and alley on the side of the building with a door that was supposed to be locked but wasn't. Anyone could have gone in or out without Sullivan seeing them, which meant Dr. Merritt could have left the building, taken a cab to his office, killed Laura, and returned without the doorman knowing, unless he really was home all evening like he claimed. I reported all this to Wolfe at lunch while he worked through Fritz's chicken fricassee and looked increasingly irritated by the mesinsis of human nature. So the brother didn't like her, but probably didn't kill her. The wife swears the husband was home, but he could have left through the service entrance. Laura worshipped her therapist, but the therapist says he never saw her that evening. Put down my notebook. We're not getting anywhere. On the contrary, Archie, we're getting somewhere very specific. We're eliminating possibilities. He dabbed at his lips with his napkin. The brother is not a credible suspect to no motive beyond sibling resentment. No connection to the locked office. The doorman's testimony is useless because Dr. Merritt could have used the service entrance, which means the wife's alibi is the only thing standing between Dr. Merritt and a murder conviction. You think the wife is lying? I think the wife is protecting her husband. Whether she's protecting him from false accusations or from true ones remains to be determined. He leaned back. Archie, this afternoon, I want you to do something that may seem unusual. What? I want you to find out who else was in that building Tuesday evening. It's not just Dr. Merritt's office, the entire building. Doctors, therapists, anyone who had access to the building between 6 and 8 p.m. Why? Because Laura Standish was killed in a locked room that only Dr. Merritt could access. But she had to get into that room somehow. Either Dr. Merritt let her in during a 7 o'clock appointment he denies having, or someone else with access to that room let her in and killed her. But only Merritt has a key to that office. So we're told. But keys can be copied, Archie. Locks can be picked. People who want to commit murder in locked rooms often find creative ways to do so. Picked up his beer. Find out who else was in that building. Find out who had opportunity. And most importantly, find out who had reason to want Laura Standish dead. The building on East 73rd Street housed 6 medical offices. I spent Sunday afternoon tracking down everyone who'd been there Tuesday evening, which turned out to be exactly 2 people, Dr. Merritt and Dr. Helen Vance. A clinical psychologist whose office was on the 2nd floor. Dr. Vance was in her late 30s, attractive in a severe sort of way, with dark hair pulled back and the kind of intelligence that showed in her eyes before she even opened her mouth. Dr. Merritt, she said when I asked about him. Yes, I know Philip. We've shared this building for about 3 years. Professional colleagues, cordial, but not close. Were you here Tuesday evening? I was. I had a patient at 6:30 who ran late. I didn't leave until 7:30 or so. Did you see or hear anything unusual? Like what? Like Laura Standish arriving for a 7 o'clock appointment with Dr. Merritt? Her expression shifted slightly, something I couldn't quite read. Laura Standish. Yes, I heard about her. Terrible. Tragedy. Did you see her Tuesday evening? No, but I heard someone come in around 7. The front door downstairs has a distinctive creak. I assumed it was Philip's 7 o'clock patient. What? But you didn't see her? My office door was closed. I was with my own patient. But I heard footsteps going up to the 3rd floor, where Philip's office is. Did you hear anything else? Voices, a struggle. No, the building has thick walls. You can hear people moving around, footsteps, doors, but not conversations. One of the things Philip and I both appreciate about this building: privacy. What time did you leave? Around 7:30? My patient left at 7:20. I tidied up and I went home. Did you see Dr. Merritt leave? No. His office door was closed when I left. I assumed he was still with his patient. I made notes. Dr. Vance, how well did you know Laura Standish? I didn't know her at all. Philip's patients are his business, not mine, but you knew she was his patient. She hesitated. This is a small building, Mr. Goodwin. You see the same faces coming and going. I recognized Laura because she had regular appointments, Tuesday evenings at 7, like clockwork. But I never spoke to her. Did you know Dr. Merritt had installed a special lock on his office door? I knew. He mentioned it when he did it. Said he wanted extra security for patient files. I thought it was a bit paranoid, but then Philip's always been careful about confidentiality. 6 months ago, he installed that lock. Yes, about that time. Why? Just curious. I stood to leave. Thank you for your time, Dr. Vance. She walked me to the door. Mr. Goodwin, I hope you find out what really happened. Philip's a good man, good doctor. I can't believe he'd harm a patient. Everyone trusted him, I said. Yes, she replied quietly. That was the problem. When I reported to Wolfe, he was in his chair with his eyes closed, fingers interlaced, looking like a Buddha, contemplating the nature of human wickedness. Dr. Helen Vance, I concluded. She was in the building Tuesday evening, heard someone come in at 7, heard footsteps going upstairs, left around 7:30. Didn't see Laura, didn't see Dr. Merritt, didn't hear anything suspicious. She knew Laura was Dr. Merritt's patient. She recognized her from seeing her come and go. Regular appointments, Tuesdays at 7. Wolfe opened his eyes. Archie, Dr. Merritt installed his special lock 6 months ago. Laura Standish became his patient 6 months ago. And according to Dr. Vance, Laura had regular appointments every Tuesday at 7. Okay, so why would a therapist install a special lock specifically when a new patient begins treatment? What was Dr. Merritt protecting? His patient files, he said. From whom? Thieves don't break into therapists' offices to steal files? Insurance? Companies don't require special locks. And if Dr. Merritt was simply being cautious, why did he wait 3 years to install this lock? Why specifically 6 months ago? I thought about it. You think it has something to do with Laura specifically? I think Dr. Merritt installed that lock because of Laura Standish. Either to protect something related to her treatment, or to protect himself from something she represented. He leaned forward. Archie, tomorrow morning you will speak with Dr. Merritt again. This time, you will not ask him about Tuesday evening. You will ask him about 6 months ago. You will ask him why he really installed that lock. And you will watch very carefully to see if he tells you the truth. On Monday morning, I was back at the Merritt apartment, watching Dr. Philip Merritt's face as I asked him the question Wolfe wanted answered. Dr. Merritt, why did you install that special lock 6 months ago? He blinked. I told you, extra security for patient files. But you'd been practicing in that building for 3 years? Why suddenly need extra security 6 months ago? It just seemed like a good idea. Better safe than sorry. Did something happen 6 months ago that made you concerned about security? His face went carefully blank, the kind of blank that comes from years of training yourself not to reveal what you're thinking. No, nothing specific. Laura Standish became your patient 6 months ago. Yes. Coincidentally? Was it? Coincidentally? Leaned forward. Dr. Merritt, you installed a special lock that only you could open at exactly the same time a new patient started treatment. That's not a coincidence. That's a precaution. What were you protecting? He stood up, walked to the window, looked out at Park Avenue like the answer might be written on the buildings across the street. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. Laura Standish was not like my other patients. How so? She was troubled. More troubled than I initially realized. Her depression wasn't just chemical IT. It was situational. Something in her past was haunting her, and as we worked together, she began to reveal things. Dangerous things. What kind of things I can't tell you? Doctor-patient confidentiality. Even now that she's dead, I'm bound by professional ethics. Dr. Merritt, your professional ethics won't matter much if you're convicted of murder. He turned from the window. Then I'll be convicted, but I won't betray Laura's trust. She came to me because she needed help. Because she trusted me. Everyone trusted me. And I won't violate that trust just to save myself. Did Laura threaten you? No, never. She was vulnerable, frightened, desperate for help. Why would she threaten me? Then who were you? Protecting yourself from with that lock. He was silent for a long moment. Then, I wasn't protecting myself. Laura's treatment files contain information that, if discovered, could have put her in danger. I installed the lock to ensure no one could access those files without my knowledge. What kind of information? The kind that gets people killed. Mr. Goodwin. He sat down heavily, and now she's dead anyway. So maybe the lock didn't matter. Maybe nothing I did mattered. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe listened to my report with his eyes closed and his fingers drumming slowly on the arm of his chair. So Dr. Merritt installed the lock to protect Laura, not himself. He won't reveal what's in her files because of confidentiality. And he believes the information in those files could have gotten her killed. That's what he says. Do you believe him? I believe he's telling part of the truth. Whether it's the important part remains to be seen. Wolfe opened his eyes. Archie, I want you to obtain Laura Standish's treatment files. They're locked in Dr. Merritt's office. The police have the office sealed. And even if I could get in, breaking doctor-patient confidentiality is necessary to prevent a miscarriage of justice. If Dr. Merritt is innocent, those files will prove it. If he's guilty, they'll prove that too. Either way, we need to see them. How do you suggest I get them? Asked Mrs. Merritt. As Dr. Merritt's wife, she should have access to his office. Tell her we need those files to save her husband. If she refuses, tell her that Nero Wolfe refuses to continue the case without them. I called Catherine Merritt. She was reluctant but desperate enough to agree. That afternoon, she met me at the building with a key to her husband's office. Not the special lock, but the regular building key that would get us to the third floor. The police sealed Philip's office, she said as we climbed the stairs. I have a key to the building. If anyone asks, I came to collect some of Philip's personal items. The seal on Dr. Merritt's office door was intact. Catherine looked at it, then at me. I can't break a police seal, then don't look. I carefully peeled back the seal, opened the door, and we went inside. The office looked the same as when I'd been there with Kramerneat. Professional, haunted by the memory of what had happened here. Catherine went to the filing cabinet while I examined the special lock on the door. It was a good lock, expensive, professional installation. It's a kind of lock that said this door stays locked unless I open it. But there was something odd about it. Small scratch near the keyhole. Fresh, recent. The kind of scratch that comes from a lockpick or a filed key. Mr. Goodwin, Catherine said quietly. I found Laura's file. She handed it to me. It was thick 6. Months of sessions, carefully documented. I flipped through it, scanning the notes. Most of it was standard therapy. Language depression, anxiety, childhood trauma, trust issues. Then I found the entry from 3 weeks ago. Dr. Merritt's handwriting, neat and precise. Patient revealed today that she witnessed a crime 6 months ago, has been carrying this knowledge in silence, afraid to report it. The crime involves someone she knew and trusted. She is terrified of retaliation if she speaks out. Discussed options for reporting to authorities safely. Patient undecided. And then, 1 week ago, the patient has decided to report what she witnessed. She believes it's the right thing to do, despite her fear. I encourage this decision. We discussed how to contact police safely. She plans to make the report this week. I showed it to Catherine. Her face went pale. Laura witnessed a crime. She was going to report it. And then she died. Who did she witness? What crime, it doesn't say. Philip was careful not to write specific details. She looked at me. Mr. Goodwin, do you think someone killed Laura too? Keep her from reporting what she saw. I think that's exactly what happened. The question is who, when I reported to Wolfe. His eyes gleamed with the expression that meant something had just clicked into place in his magnificent brain. So Laura Standish witnessed a crime 6 months ago. She'd been silent out of fear. 3 weeks ago, she decided to come forward. 1 week ago, she planned to report it. And Tuesday evening, she was murdered, which means someone knew she was going to talk. Precisely. And the only person who knew was Dr. Merritt. He was her therapist, her confidant. She trusted him with the information, and then Wolfe paused dramatically. Someone killed her in his locked office with his tie, ensuring he would be blamed. You think someone framed Dr. Merritt? I think someone killed two birds with one stone, Archie. They eliminated a witness who was about to expose them. They framed the one person who knew what that witness was going to say. He leaned back. The question is, who knew that Laura had information worth killing for? Only Dr. Merritt knew what she'd witnessed. Did he? Or did someone else know as well? Someone Laura trusted. Someone who had access to her thoughts, her fears, her plans. Wolfe's eyes opened wide. Archie, who else did Laura Standish trust completely? And then I saw it, the tiny clue that had been there all along. Her therapist, I said slowly. Trusted Dr. Merritt. But Wolfe, what if she was seeing more than one therapist? Not more than one, Archie. One other. Someone else in that building. Someone who also treats troubled patients. Someone who was there Tuesday evening. Dr. Helen Vance. Dr. Helen Vance. Tuesday morning, I was back at Dr. Helen Vance's office with a direct question and no patience for evasion. Dr. Vance, was Laura Standish your patient? The carefully composed mask slipped for just a moment's surprise, calculation, and something that might have been fear. Then it was back in place, smooth as glass. Why would you think that? 'Cause Laura witnessed a crime 6 months ago. 'Cause she was afraid of someone she knew and trusted. Because she finally decided to report it, and then she died. And because the only way her killer could have known she was going to talk was if they had access to her therapy sessions. That's speculation, Mr. Goodwin. That's it. Laura saw Dr. Merritt on Tuesdays. What other day did she see you? Silence. Vance, I can get patient records. I can talk to insurance companies. I can find out the truth. You can either tell me now, or I can discover it in a way that makes you look like you're hiding something. She stood up, walked to her window, stared out at the street. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. Yes, Laura was my patient. For 2 months. She came to me in September, said she needed additional support beyond what Dr. Merritt was providing. She wanted a woman's perspective, she said. Someone who might understand her fears differently. Did Dr. Merritt know? Yes, I consulted with him with Laura's permission. It's not unusual for patients to see multiple therapists, especially for complex cases. What did Laura tell you? The same things she told Philip, I imagine. Depression, anxiety, difficulty, trusting people. Did she tell you about the crime she witnessed? Dr. Vance turned from the window. No, she never mentioned witnessing any crime to me. You're lying. I'm protecting patient confidentiality. Your patient is dead, Dr. Vance. Murdered. In Dr. Merritt's office. With his tie on the evening she was supposed to see him, someone killed her and framed Dr. Merritt for it. And I think you know who. I don't you were in the building that evening. You heard someone come in at 7. You heard footsteps going upstairs. But here's what you didn't tell me. You also knew that Laura was planning to report a crime. You knew because she told you during one of your sessions. And you knew that whoever she was going to report would do anything to stop her. Her face had gone pale, Mr. Goodwin. Even if what you're saying is true, even if Laura did tell me something, I can't violate her confidentiality, not even to save Dr. Merritt. Then Dr. Merritt will go to prison for a murder he didn't commit. And you'll have to live with that. I already live with worse. She sat down heavily. Mr. Goodwin, Laura came to me because she was terrified. Not just of what she'd witnessed, but of what it meant. She'd trusted someone completely, and that person had betrayed that trust in the worst possible way. She was paralyzed by fear, afraid to report it, afraid not to report it, afraid of what would happen either way. Who did she witness? I can't tell you. Can't or won't. Both. She looked at me directly. I'll tell you this. Laura's appointment with Dr. Merritt Tuesday evening wasn't just a regular session. She'd asked to see him urgently. She said she'd made her final decision about reporting what she saw. She was going to tell Dr. Merritt exactly what happened and get his help contacting the police. So someone knew she was going to talk that evening. Someone knew. How? How did they know? She was silent for a long moment. Then I made a terrible mistake, Mr. Goodwin. 3 days before Laura died, I had a conversation with someone about patient confidentiality. It was academic, theoretical lore, so I thought, I mentioned, without using names, that I had a patient who'd witnessed something serious and was struggling with whether to report it. I said the patient had finally decided to come forward. Did you tell? I can't. She stopped. I won't. But I will say this. The person I told didn't need names to figure out who I was talking about. There aren't that many patients in this building. And if you put together a few pieces of patients struggling with depression and anxiety, a patient with evening appointments, a patient who'd recently become more agitated, you could figure it out. Dr. Vance, someone killed Laura Standish based on information you gave them. You need to tell me who. I need to tell the police. And I will. But not you. Not now. She stood up. I've already said too much. If you want answers, talk to Nero Wolfe. He's smarter than both of us. Let him figure it out. When I reported to Wolfe, he was eating lunch sea bass with lemon butter, which meant he was in a good mood despite the machines of the case. So Dr. Vance admitted Laura was her patient. She confirmed Laura was planning to report a crime Tuesday evening. And she admitted she told someone accidentally or not about a patient who was about to come forward. But she won't say who she told. She won't say. Says she'll tell the police, but not us. Wolfe finished his fish, dabbed at his lips, and leaned back. Archie, think about Dr. Vance's situation. She's a therapist, bound by confidentiality. She has a patient who witnessed a crime but is too afraid to report it. Dr. Vance is ethically obligated to encourage reporting while respecting the patient's autonomy. She can't force the issue. She can't report it herself without the patient's permission, so she's stuck. Precisely. And in her frustration, she discusses the situation, theoretically, academically, with someone she trusts. A colleague, perhaps. Someone in the medical field who would understand the ethical dilemma. Someone in the building, most likely. Someone who shares her professional world. Someone who wouldn't judge her for discussing a difficult case. Wolfe's eyes gleamed. Archie, how many doctors are in that building? 6 offices. Dr. Merritt, Dr. Vance, and 4 others. I checked the directory. Dr. James Patterson, internist. Dr. Sarah Kemp, pediatrician. Dr. Robert Chen, dermatologist. Dr. Michael Foster, also a psychiatrist. Another psychiatrist. In the same building as Dr. Merritt and Dr. Vance. That's interesting. Why? Because psychiatrists talk to each other, Archie. They consult on difficult cases. They discuss ethical dilemmas. They form professional relationships built on trust and confidentiality. He poured beer. Call Dr. Michael Foster. Tell him I need to see him immediately. Tell him it's about Laura Standish and Dr. Philip Merritt. Tell him if he doesn't come, I'll call Inspector Kramer and suggest he investigate Dr. Foster's relationship. With the victim? You think Foster killed her? I think Dr. Foster knows something. Whether that knowledge makes him a witness or a suspect remains to be determined.
Oh.
Dr. Michael Foster arrived at the Brownstone at 4 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, and the moment he walked into Wolfe's office, I knew something was wrong. He was in his early 50s, distinguished-looking, expensive suit, but his hands were shaking, and his face had the pallor of a man who'd just seen his entire life about to collapse. He sat in the red leather chair without being invited and said, "You know," Wolfe looked at him with the expression of a judge examining a defendant. "I know many things, Dr. Foster. Which particular knowledge are you referring to?" "Laura Standish, what she witnessed, what I did." The room went very quiet. Even Wolfe seemed surprised, which almost never happens. "Dr. Foster, are you confessing to murder?" "No. God, no. I didn't kill Laura. But I know who did, and I know why." He put his face in his hands. "Should have come forward immediately. I should have told the police, but I was afraid. Afraid of what it would mean for me, for my career, for everything I've built." "Then tell us now. What did Laura Standish?" Witness Foster took a shaky breath. 6 months ago, I made a terrible mistake. I had a patient, a young man, deeply troubled, suicidal. He was making progress, or so I thought. Then one evening he came to my office unannounced. In crisis, He was agitated, violent, threatening to hurt himself. I tried to calm him down. Tried to talk him through it, but he wouldn't listen. He became physical, attacking me. We struggled, and heat stopped. Wolfe's voice was cold. I defended myself. Too forcefully. He fell, hit his head on my desk. I checked his pulse. He was dead. Foster's voice cracked. It was an accident, Mr. Wolfe. I never meant to kill him. But he was dead, and I panicked. I couldn't call the police. I couldn't report it. My career would be over. Everything would be destroyed. So I made it look like a suicide. I took his body to his apartment, staged it to look like he'd hanged himself. And everyone believed it. Everyone except Laura Standish. She lived in the apartment across the hall. She heard the commotion in my office. We'd struggled. Furniture had crashed. She came to investigate, looked through my office window, and saw me with the body. She ran before I could explain. 4 weeks I waited for the police to come, but they never did. Laura never reported what she saw. She just kept silent. Why? I don't know. Maybe she was afraid. Maybe she didn't want to get involved. Maybe she convinced herself she'd misunderstood what she saw. But 6 months later, she started seeing Dr. Merritt for therapy. And Dr. Vance. And she started talking about what she'd witnessed. Wolfe leaned forward. How did you know she was talking? Helen, Dr. Vance, she's a colleague, a friend. We discuss cases sometimes, consult on difficult patients. 3 days. Before Laura died, Helen mentioned she had a patient who'd witnessed something terrible and was finally ready to report it. She didn't say who, but I put it together. Laura lived in that building. Laura was Helen's patient. Laura had seen what I'd done. So you killed her? No, I didn't kill her. Foster stood up, paced. I wanted to talk to her, to explain, to make her understand it was an accident. I went to Dr. Merritt's building Tuesday evening. I knew Laura. Had an appointment at 7. I waited outside. When she arrived, I approached her in the hallway. I begged her to listen, to understand, but she was terrified. She ran up the stairs to Dr. Merritt's office. I followed her, trying to explain. She reached the 3rd floor. Tried Merritt's door. It was locked, but you had a key. Foster stopped pacing. How did you... the scratch on the lock? Someone had made a copy of Dr. Merritt's key. Someone who had access to his office who could have borrowed his key long enough to duplicate it. Someone who wanted the ability to enter that locked room without Dr. Merritt knowing. Wolfe's eyes were cold. You made a copy of the key months ago, didn't you? When you first suspected Laura might be discussing what she'd seen, you wanted access to Dr. Merritt's files. Wanted to know what Laura was telling him. Yes, I copied the key. But I never used it for anything except reading her file once to see what she'd told Philip. And Tuesday evening, when Laura tried the door and it was locked, he stopped. I thought if we could talk privately in Philip's office, I could make her understand. I unlocked the door. She went inside. I followed. I tried to explain about the patient, about the accident, about how it wasn't murder. But she wouldn't listen. She said she was going to tell Dr. Merritt everything when he arrived at 7. She said she'd already decided to go to the police. I begged her not to. I grabbed her arm. She pulled away, frightened. And then his voice broke. And then someone else came in. Wolfe and I both sat up straighter. Someone else. Another person. I don't know who. They came in through the door I'd left unlocked. They saw us arguing. They saw Laura frightened. And Foster sat down heavily. They attacked Laura, grabbed her from behind, strangled her with something. I tried to stop them, but they were stronger, faster. By the time I pulled them off, Laura was dead. The person ran. I stood there in shock, with a dead woman and no explanation that anyone would believe. So I panicked again. I staged it too. Looked like Philip had done it. Used his tie, left the room, locked the door behind me with my copied key. I went home and hoped that somehow, I'd get away with it. You're lying, I said. No one else was there. You killed Laura yourself. Not lying? Someone else came in? Someone else killed her? I saw them, Mr. Goodwin. I just don't know who they were. Wolfe closed his eyes. Describe this person. I can't. It happened so fast. Medium height, dark clothes, maybe a coat. They came in, grabbed Laura, strangled her, and ran. 20 seconds. Maybe 30. And they were gone, and Laura was dead, and I was left holding the body. Male or female? I don't know. Could have been either. Did they say anything? No, nothing. Just came in, killed her, and left. Wolfe opened his eyes and looked at Foster with something that might have been pity.
Dr. Foster, you're either
A murderer lying to save yourself, or a coward so paralyzed by fear that you let someone else kill a witness to your crime and then helped frame an innocent man for it. I'm not certain which is worse. I didn't kill her. I swear I didn't kill her. Then who did? I don't know, but I'll tell the police everything. About the patient I killed, about copying the key, about being there when Laura died. I'll confess. To everything except the murder? Maybe they'll believe me. Or maybe they'll charge you with murder and no one will ever know who really killed Laura Standish. Foster put his face in his hands again. I know. God help me. I know. After Foster left to turn himself in to Kramer, he promised Hy looked at Wolfe and said, Do you believe him? I believe he killed his patient 6 months ago and covered it up. I believe he copied Dr. Merritt's key. I believe he confronted Laura Tuesday evening and unlocked the office after that. He shrugged. Either he killed Laura himself and is lying about a mysterious third person, or someone else saw an opportunity and took it. Who? Who else would want Laura dead? That, Archie, is what we need to determine. We need to determine it quickly. Because if Dr. Foster is telling the truth, then a killer is still free. And if he's lying, then Dr. Merritt will go to prison for a crime committed by someone else. The phone rang. It was Inspector Kramer, and he sounded like a man who'd just had a very bad day get significantly worse. Goodwin, Dr. Michael Foster, just walked into my office and confessed to killing a patient 6 months ago. He also claims someone else killed Laura Standish while he watched. You know anything about this? We just heard the same story. Do you believe him? I believe he's guilty of something. Whether it's murder or just being the unluckiest man in New York remains to be seen. He paused. Tell Wolfe that if he's got any brilliant insights, now would be the time to share them, because this case just got a lot more complicated. Up and looked at Wolfe. Kramer's stumped. Foster's confessed to one killing but denies the other, and somewhere out there is either a fictional third person or a real killer who's gotten away with murder. Not for long, Archie, because I know who killed Laura Standish. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to prove it. Wednesday morning at 11? Wolfe's office looked like a courtroom assembled by someone with a taste for drama. Inspector Kramer was there with 2 detectives. Dr. Philip Merritt sat with his wife Catherine, both looking like they'd aged 10 years in the past week. Dr. Helen Vance stood near the wall, her professional composure cracking at the edges. And Dr. Michael Foster sat in the red leather chair, looking like a man waiting for a verdict he already knew would be guilty. Wolfe surveyed them all with the expression of a judge about to pronounce sentence. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here because Laura Standish was murdered Tuesday evening in Dr. Merritt's office, because the wrong man has been blamed for it. I will now explain who killed her, how they did it, and why. Make it fast, Wolfe, Kramer said. I've got Dr. Foster ready to be charged with murder. Dr. Foster did not kill Laura Standish. Everyone sat up straighter. He killed someone else's patient 6 months ago, covered it up, staged a suicide, and lived with that guilt. But he did not kill Laura. Wolfe leaned forward. However, his actions on Tuesday evening created the circumstances that led to her death. By confronting Laura in the building, by following her to Dr. Merritt's office, by unlocking that door with his copied key, he provided an opportunity for someone else. Someone who had been waiting for exactly such an opportunity. Catherine, Merritt whispered. Wolfe turned to Dr. Helen Vance. Dr. Vance, 3 days before Laura died, you discussed her case with someone. You mentioned a patient who was about to come forward with information about a crime. You claim you didn't reveal the patient's name, but I believe you did. Not deliberately, but inadvertently. You mentioned enough details that the person you were speaking with could identify Laura Standish. Isn't that correct? I didn't mean to. I know you didn't, but you did. And the person you told understood immediately that if Laura came forward, everything would be destroyed. Their career, their reputation, their life. They couldn't allow that to happen. But who did she tell? Kramer demanded. The only person who makes sense, Inspector. The one person who had both motive and opportunity. The one person who knew Laura would be at Dr. Merritt's office Tuesday evening. It's the one person who everyone trusted completely. He paused. Mrs. Catherine Merritt. Catherine's face went white. Philip stared at his wife in shock. That's insane, Catherine said. I had no reason to kill Laura, didn't you? You knew your husband was treating her. You knew she came to his office every Tuesday at 7. When Dr. Vanzer, friend your confidant, someone you'd known for years, mentioned that a patient was about to expose a crime. You realized it must be Laura, because Laura was the only one of your husband's patients. You knew was keeping a terrible secret. How would I know that? 'Cause you'd read your husband's files. Not all of them, just Laura's. You'd copied his key to the special lock months ago, and you became suspicious of how much time and attention he was giving this particular patient. You read her files and discovered she'd witnessed Dr. Foster's crime. And you realized that if Laura reported it, the ensuing investigation would expose something else. Something you'd done. I haven't done anything, haven't you? Wolfe opened a folder on his desk. 6 months ago, shortly after Laura witnessed Dr. Foster's crime, you embezzled $50,000 from the medical practice management company where you work as an accountant. You thought you'd covered your tracks, thought no one would notice, but an audit is scheduled for next month. When that audit happens, the theft will be discovered. You needed time to replace the money to cover your crime. The last thing you needed was a police investigation into anything connected to your husband or his practice and investigation that might look into finances, that might discover your theft. Catherine was shaking. You can't prove any of this. Can't. Inspector Kramer, I suggest you examine Mrs. Merritt's financial records. I suspect you'll find withdrawals, unusual expenses, attempts to replace stolen money. The timing will be revealing. Kramer nodded to one of his detectives, who moved closer to Catherine. Wolfe continued. Tuesday evening, you knew Laura would be at your husband's office at 7. You went there early, waited in the building. When Dr. Foster confronted Laura and unlocked the office door, you saw your opportunity. You followed them inside. You heard Laura say she was going to tell Dr. Merritt everything, that she was going to the police. You realized the investigation would inevitably lead to your theft. So you did the only thing you thought would save you. You killed the witness. I asked, how did she strangle Laura? With the tie that was conveniently available, her husband's tie, hanging in his closet. She grabbed it, came up behind Laura while she was arguing with Dr. Foster, and strangled her. Dr. Foster, in shock, didn't realize who the attacker was in those few seconds of chaos. By the time he recovered, the murderer had fled, and he was left with the body. He panicked and staged the scene to frame Dr. Merritt, not knowing he was actually helping the real killer. Catherine stood up. This is all speculation. You have no proof, don't I? Dr. Foster described his attacker as medium. Height, dark clothing. That describes you. The attack took only seconds, the kind of quick, desperate violence that comes from panic, not planning. And most tellingly, you had access to your husband's office, knew his schedule, knew when he wouldn't be there. You used your copied key to ensure the door would be locked after you left, framing your own husband for a murder you committed. Why would I frame Philip? I love him, do you? Or do you love what he represents, respectability, success, security? You were willing to let him go to prison to save yourself from embezzlement charges. It's not love, Mrs. Merritt. That's self-preservation. Catherine's face crumbled. For a long moment she stood frozen. Then she said, very quietly, I didn't plan it. I just... I saw Laura there, heard her talking about going to the police, and I knew everything would come out. The investigation, the questions, the audit. They'd find out what I'd done. I'd lose everything. My job, my reputation, Philip. I grabbed the tie without thinking. It was over in seconds. and then I ran and left your husband to take the blame. I thought if I got a good lawyer, if I hired Nero Wolfe, maybe Philip could be proven innocent without anyone discovering my theft. Maybe I could save us both." She looked at her husband, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, Philip. I'm so sorry." Philip Merritt looked at his wife with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not betrayal, but profound sadness. "Everyone trusted you, Catherine. I trusted you. That was the problem." Kramer moved forward with handcuffs. "Catherine Merritt, you're under arrest for the murder of Laura Standish." As they led her away, still crying, still apologizing, Wolfe leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. "The case is closed, Dr. Merritt. You're free to go." Philip stood slowly. "Thank you, Mr. Wolfe. Though I'm not certain freedom is what this feels like. Freedom rarely feels the way we imagine it will, Dr. Merritt, but it's preferable to prison." He opened his eyes. "Send your check when you're ready. There's no hurry." After everyone left Kramer with his prisoner, Dr. Foster with his own confession to deliver, Dr. Vance with her guilt and regret, I looked at Wolfe and said, "How did you know it was Catherine?" "Process of elimination, Archie. Dr. Foster's story was too detailed to be entirely fabricated. Genuinely didn't know who attacked Laura. Dr. Vance's guilt was real, but she hadn't killed anyone. That left someone who knew about Laura's plans, had access to the office, and had a motive. We hadn't considered when I learned about the upcoming audit at Catherine's workplace. Everything became clear. Follow the money, Archie. It's often the simplest solution. Is it the trust part? The title of our case? Everyone trusted Catherine Merritt. Her husband trusted her to be faithful and honest. Dr. Vance trusted her with confidential information. Even Laura Standish trusted that the wife of her therapist wouldn't be a threat. That trust allowed Catherine to get close enough to kill without suspicion. He picked up his beer. Trust is humanity's greatest vulnerability, Archie. It allows us to form bonds, create societies, love one another, but it also makes us blind to the predators among us. Catherine Merritt was trusted by everyone, and that trust is what allowed her to kill. So what's the moral? There is no moral. Only observation. Humans trust because they must. But they should also watch because they must. The trick is knowing when to do which. He opened his book. Leave me alone. Fritz is preparing Solmoy for lunch, and I need to prepare myself mentally for the experience. I went to my desk and thought about Catherine Merritt, trusted wife, trusted friend, trusted colleague, right up until the moment she wrapped a silk tie around Laura Standish's neck and squeezed the life out of a woman whose only crime was deciding to tell the truth. Everyone had trusted her, and that, as Wolfe said, was the problem. 3 weeks later, I read in the papers that Catherine Merritt had been convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years. Dr. Michael Foster pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter and received 10 years. Dr. Philip Merritt sold his practice and moved to California, where presumably he started over with a new life and new patients and tried very hard not to trust anyone to completely ever again. As for Wolfe, he returned to his orchids, his meals, his books, and his beer. The case was closed. The check had cleared. The world continued, spinning with all its complications and contradictions and occasional flashes of both honesty and horror. "Archie," he said one evening over dinner, "do you trust me?" "With my life," I said, "though not with my salary." "Good. That's the appropriate level of trust, enough to function, not enough to be vulnerable." He cut into his roast duck. Humanity would be better served if everyone approached trust with such calibration. But then we'd all be suspicious and paranoid. It's better suspicious and alive than trusting and dead. He chewed thoughtfully, though I admit the food would taste less satisfying in a world without trust. Fritz trusts that I'll appreciate his cooking. I trust that he won't poison me. It's a delicate balance. Everything's a delicate balance with you. Everything's a delicate balance, period. The universe is chaos held together by fragile agreements and temporary truces. We trust each other because the alternative is intolerable. But we should never forget that trust, like china, breaks more easily than it repairs. He returned to his dinner, and I returned to mine. And somewhere in the brownstone, Fritz was probably listening and smiling and trusting that we'd appreciate tomorrow's breakfast, which we would, because some trusts are worth keeping. The end.